get in the car. We're going to the temple in Rochester. In that moment, my 15-year-old self knew that I was absolutely, utterly screwed. I remember waking up in my mom's bed somehow in a complete haze, flushed with the remnants of the night before. My mom was furiously packing, throwing clothes into the bag, and out of absolute fear and shame, I ran into her car and sunk into the seat. It was a 4-hour-long car ride of unspoken, tangible disappointment from my mom and nausea on my part. I didn't know where we were going or what was happening, but I remember thinking, if I go to this place of redemption, my mom will be happy, so I won't get grounded as much, and when we're home, I can go to more parties. 15-year-old logic. Upon arriving at the temple in Rochester, New York, the sun was already setting on untouched snow, and its golden rays were lighting up the temple. My mom and I immediately changed into traditional Indian clothing, known as a salwar kameez, which is what I'm wearing right now. Walking into the temple, I remember hearing a cacophony of sounds that shot through my body. I was overwhelmed with the colors, lights, sounds, and hundreds of devotees all in this Hindu temple. The people seemed to float around, immersed in what they were doing, and I had no idea what any of it meant. My mom grabbed me by the hand and took me to the deity hall, where the main goddess lives, Ma Tripura Sundari. In the Hindu philosophy, deities represent energy forms in the universe. This one, Ma Tripura Sundari, representing divine feminine energy. She has 10 arms spread out like this, each holding different types of weapons and symbolisms, and she's sitting on this lion with these piercing black eyes. I mean, feminine energy. So, my mom told me to sit on the ground on a mat in front of the goddess just like this and stare into her eyes. Like what? I didn't know what that meant or what I was supposed to do or why I was doing it, other than the fact that I didn't want to get grounded. But in that moment, a sense of calm washed over me. I didn't ask any questions, I just did it. Prior to this experience, my view of the world was linear. Everything I saw was what I considered reality. But after maybe a couple of seconds of staring into those black eyes, my view transformed. I remember I actually dropped out of my fixated view on the eyes to see if other people saw what I was seeing. I mean, my eyes were open, yet I started to look into a blackness. I began to feel alone in a room filled with people. A wave of relaxation flooded my body, and the deity's figure began to zoom in and out, and in and out of focus, as if I was being spoken to by her. My thoughts somehow disappeared, and the sounds around me dwindled, and I could only start to see the outlines of objects. And all the objects around me looked cartoonish. In that moment, I understood that what I see around me is based on perception, and perhaps my perception of reality is false. After what felt like 5 minutes of sitting, my mom came and tapped me on the shoulder and said it had been 2 hours of me sitting and staring into those eyes. I had lost time and space, feeling absolute emptiness in the sense that nothing else mattered except this very moment. I felt like a content, empty shell. Now, here's my quick disclaimer before I proceed. I'm not sharing this experience because I want to convert anyone or debate the existence of God, because even though I feel for myself that what I experienced in those moments of my life was divine intervention, I know that other people's beliefs may not align, and that's completely okay. I'm here to share my journey. So to give a little bit more context of myself, I've participated in theater my entire life. And I was actually doing a musical during this time when I had this experience in my sophomore year. Yet I was so detached with the theater scene, and in my earlier years of high school, I let myself get into the wrong crowd. So the next few months after this experience consisted of me basically staying home every day, which you could imagine I did not like, but I began to meditate with my mom. And the first time I meditated is when my mom played a mantra. And in Hindi, mantra means mind-altering chant. And she played the mantra associated with Ma Tripurasundari, the goddess I saw that night. I was sitting on the couch and she just played it on YouTube, and I remember I immediately went into meditation. And in the meditation, I was like, wow, I'm meditating. It was so exciting. So from then on, I kept my meditation practices, I kept going, and gradually I can see now that everything in my life that wasn't meant to be fell away, and everything meant to be appeared before me. After that first performance of the musical I was in, I miraculously found my first voice teacher, and we began studying classical voice. And then I began dance lessons where I started dancing with literally 11-year-olds next to me in tutus because I was so bad. And then I got into my first gifted and talented high school acting program. And then I got into my first professional show. And then I just got into Carnegie Mellon University for voice. So everything moved so fast and perfectly. And it became almost difficult to keep up because I was also growing spiritually, and it became growingly difficult to be a so-called normal teenager. I didn't know how to be spiritual and at the same time live in this world of overwhelming superficiality. I mean, I would go to a Buddhist retreat for the weekend, and a meditation retreat, and I'd be in absolute bliss. And then I'd come home, and I'd have homework assignments and scheduling and having to find a prom date. It was extremely conflicting. So figuring out how to find the yin and yang of being in this world and doing that dance of life, but also maintaining an aerial view of yourself to know that we're all just spiritual beings, every single one of us, was quite a journey for me. I aspired to find that balance, and I only recently realized that I did, and it was through the arts. Studying voice and dance my sophomore year, and now acting my senior year, I see how all of these art forms are so spiritual in themselves. As an actress, I came into the high school acting program so emotionally closed off because of those years of neglecting my mind, body, and soul. And through the training, I now can see that acting is all about opening ourselves emotionally and spiritually so that we can experience those extremes of darkness and light and everything in between. And meditation is the same, experiencing that light of divinity, but then also the other side of having to network through our crazed thoughts and meeting in the middle with the breath. My voice teacher and I always speak about body alignment and the flow of breath. Whether you're meditating, dancing, singing, or acting, the breath flows to activate your chakras in your body or your energy centers. Because of these art forms, and because I choose to pursue them at this time in my life right now, I know that I can always grow spiritually at the same time. But at the same time, I still choose to participate in that dance of life by lugging myself to auditions, or in the future having to pay the rent even though I'll probably be very broke sometimes. And that's okay, because that's just part of the deal of being a human. So I'm not saying that I now need to be an actress or artist to find the balance. I'm saying that I can maintain spirituality within any passion I choose. Some of you in the audience may be pursuing a medical degree. You can think of it that your driving force for this career is that you care about people and you want to save lives. And that is spiritual in itself. I am so grateful and blessed that I was able to experience something much beyond my mental capacity at such a young age, because it drove me to the path of an artist, but more importantly, it opened me up as a spiritual being living a human life. Thank you.